It's the season of finals and the season of cheer. It's not Christmas. It's Roma against Sevilla in the Europa League. Jose Mourinho's narrative against Sevilla's whatever it is that they have in the Europa League. We'll start with Roma. Quakey, you've watched a lot of Jose Mourinho's Roma. He's carried on this flamboyant streak of being this manager who just says and does whatever he wants. And I believe he would be the first manager, if he was to go on to win the Champions League, Europa League and the Europa Conference League.
Yeah, and he just carries on going on. He's one of my favourite men in football. Gianfranco Zola's at the top of that list, and Jose Mourinho is firmly second on that list. And it's a different Mourinho this season. Obviously, we know he's got that bombastic nature, but it's the tactical flexibility that maybe has seen them fall short in Serie A, where they have fallen away quite poorly, especially being in the ascendancy in terms of those top four places. But they're playing a three at the back at the moment, which is not really a Mourinho thing to do. He likes those two DMs, but what he has got is that security blanket from Nemanja Matic, a player that he knows very, very well. And the reintegration of Spinazzola in the side as well, a player that he kind of fell out with earlier this season. But it's a softer Mourinho, and the way that he's coddled these players is the reason why they're in this final, and it's all eyes on the Europa League final. That's what their goal has been maybe for the last couple of months, where they knew they just didn't have enough in the top four race, especially in Serie A. Tammy Abraham's a player that we all know well. He's not scoring goals, but he's a player that Jose Mourinho has kept faith in, and he's been important in these big games, especially against Bayer Leverkusen in the second leg, where I wouldn't say that Roma didn't come to play football, but they didn't come to play football. They relinquished possession, and Tammy Abraham was great in the defensive sense, and the job that we've seen Didier Drogba do for Jose Mourinho. So this is a Roma side that go into this game with momentum despite their poor form in the league, and with the magic and the juju of Jose Mourinho Cup competitions, I would not be surprised to see him lift another European trophy.
100% record in finals.
That's insane.
Honestly, didn't know that until I just read it in front of me. That is absolutely insane. But he comes up against Sevilla, who are this team that, when it comes to Europa League, they just have some sort of command over it. If you think back to the Manchester United first leg, where they didn't have a shot on goal and then scored two absolutely absurd goals, it does certainly start to remind you a little bit of Real Madrid in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Roma's sort of strategy this season has been to frustrate, especially in Europe. Once they get a lead, they'll frustrate. And Leverkusen got 7 yellow cards in that match, including to the very cool and normally calm Xabi Alonso. I mean, Roma have an idea, they have a plan, but if there is a team that don't mind suffering for years and years, it's probably Sevilla. They are almost the antidote to what Mourinho will bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely, and they have suffered this season. I mean, I think 9th place at one point. They were staring down a potential relegation battle, Sevilla. But there's something about this competition for them. It's just they have that there, don't they? I don't know what it is. Maybe there's an element of experience, because when you look through that team, and it's not superstars, but it's all players. You go, oh yeah, good player, decent player. Jesus Navas, obviously a club legend. Fernando, 2 ex-Man City players. So I've got a slight warm feeling towards them. But then Rakitic as well there, and and Nesri and Gil. They're just there is obvious talent there, so you can see why they rise to it. But of course, as well, Lamela has been absolutely huge for them as well, a big player. And I think if anyone's going to challenge Mourinho's 100% record in this competition, well, this is Sevilla's playing ground, isn't it? This is their stomping ground, so it could be them.
Yeah, and like I say, they've got pedigree in this competition. It's interesting because they play against Real Madrid in the league before they take on Roma in the Europa League. So I wonder how many players will be rested on. You want to go into that final warm, but their form in the league has left a lot to be desired. I think their position in the table misrepresents where they should actually be. They should be challenging for Europa League places. They are a Europa League team. This is their competition. 9th in La Liga is not good enough for a side like Sevilla, below Girona in La Liga. So it's not been the season they expected in the league, but they've got star players that you listed that can do things on the biggest occasions and do seem to rise to the moment. And so you wouldn't be surprised to see them rise again in the Europa League final. But I'm a Mourinho stan. I'm here for the narrative. I'm here for another tattoo. And Jose Mourinho's just got that magic in finals, whether it's during his days at Porto where he won the UEFA Cup and he won the Champions League. Unfortunately, didn't win any European trophy at Chelsea, but that memorable treble with Inter Milan. And that was peak Mourinho, but this is a different kind of Mourinho that's softened a little bit. It's more player friendly. You've seen him in terms of incidents with Roma fans and some players, and having some unfortunate, instance, he's come out being a spokesperson. This is a different Jose Mourinho, but when it gets to the final, he's going to be as steely-eyed as possible, and I can't see any reason why they can't win this final and bring it home for Jose.
One area that you have just mentioned there is that defensive side of Roma. That's what they've specialised in this season. Only conceded 10 goals in 14 matches in the Europa League with 6 clean sheets so far. That back three plays a massive part to that. And Cristante, who's actually normally a midfielder, they've dropped into centre-back, essentially for this ability that he's got on the ball where he can hit long diagonal passes and he is effective in possession. And then on the other side of him, you've got defenders who essentially just defend. It's a very sort of like throwback back three where you have 3 defenders that can defend and 1 guy who is the one that plays them out from the back. With that in mind, where I'm going with this is going, well, they don't really want the ball, and Sevilla don't really want the ball. So, who's having the ball in this game?
Well, it's good that you point out Cristante there, because his ascendancy in terms of dropping back and starting games as a centre back is a result of a Chris Smalling injury. And Smalling is very much a Jose Mourinho defender. No nonsense. I say no nonsense, but doesn't mess around in terms of trying to play out the back. But with Cristante moving back to the back three, it adds another element to this Roma side. Smalling will be fit for the final. I don't see him coming back into the starting 11. So it'll be interesting to see whether they do relinquish the ball, whether they are happy to sit back like they were against Bayer Leverkusen in that second leg. Because if they do and invite Sevilla on and give Sevilla that confidence, then I would not be surprised to see a bit of an avalanche, especially in the wide areas that are coming in centrally in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah, there's big moments as well for Sevilla's attackers because they have stepped up in this competition when they needed to. Lamela in particular, goal and assist. They've had real kind of standout moments to win them the ties, and it could be the kind of game where defensively they're both pretty solid. It's just going to be a little bit of moment of magic. I do think Sevilla have a little bit more tendencies than Roma. Once again, they are comfortable in this competition. But I'm not envisioning a classic, if I'm being honest. That's how I currently feel. But having said that, it could be 5-5, so then penalties.
In all fairness, Roma did beat Feyenoord 4-1. Yeah. Feyenoord came into that game with good form. Sevilla's 2-1 against Juve wasn't overly entertaining, but I completely blame Max Allegri for that because Juve don't play entertaining football. And so I do agree in some elements. I'm going, it could be a real board draw, extra time, penalties. And that might make it entertaining because we all love games.
Jose loves that as well. Let's be honest.
Yeah, of course. Jose wants to win it in the most heartache way possible. Kweku, you've backed Mourinho all the way through. Are you backing Roma to go all the way?
Yeah, I am. I am backing Roma because if you compare them in terms of their league forms this season, Roma overall as a general rule, they've been better than Sevilla. Sevilla have turned it.
One thing I would say is, what if Sevilla's plan actually, and I have a theory, is to win the Europa League, to get into the Champions League, finish 3rd in the Champions League group, to get back into the
Absolutely, that's going to happen.
Well, it's insane where one of the carrots that's dangled within the Europa League is that you qualify for Champions League football. So the fact that Sevilla won the Europa League so many times, how does that happen? Do they purposely try and finish 3rd in their group to then win the competition again? It beggars belief. But
it works,
It doesn't, when it works, it works. I do think Roma overall have been a better side than Sevilla this season, and Sevilla have turned on those big European nights. I think Roma will just have a little bit too much for them. Could be a game that goes into extra time, but I think with Mourinho's 100% record in finals and the bit between his teeth and the players playing for him as well, and the backing from Roma fans as well. Normally at this stage of Mourinho's tenure at clubs, fans start to turn. One of my mates is a Roma fan and he still loves Jose Mourinho. I think that's a big factor in why he's happy that he's content there, and a big reason why they're going to win the final.
Stephen?
I think they'll win too. I think this is something about Jose in finals, and I think that the kryptonite for Sevilla could be Jose. He is the one. If anyone's going to win that reign, I think it'll be him. I'm going to go for 1-0.
That's a terrible final. I mean, earlier I referred to Mourinho as an anecdote. I obviously meant antidote. I just cannot see past Sevilla. Maybe it's the Liverpool fan in me that's suffered so much to Real Madrid, but I do just think Sevilla are one of these teams that you just cannot account for. They'll turn up on the day, potentially win it in extra time or penalties, but I do think it'll be a game worth watching. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to win the Europa League.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.